Hi, welcome. There we go. Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Kristen Eberhard, Senior Director of State and Local Policy at Rewiring America. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar with Efficiency Maine. Um, Rewiring America, for those who don't know, we are the leading electrification nonprofit focused on electrifying our homes, businesses, and communities so that we can have an abundant, flourishing, and climate-safe future. So we're very excited today to have Andy and Bridget from Efficiency Maine. But before we get to their presentation, I'd like to share with you all a tool that Rewiring America has been developing in collaboration with the state of Rhode Island. We like to call it, let me just we like to call it Rewiring Rhode Island. And basically, this is the next generation of our calculator where we are partnering with the state of Rhode Island to make sure that we have not just the upcoming federal rebates, but also state and local. So you can go into the calculator, pick the type of project that you're interested in, your zip code, a little bit of information about your household, and then we will figure out which utility or which one of two utilities that you are being served by based on your zip code, and then give you some information, the tax credits that are available right now, the rebates that are coming, and other state and local incentives. And then we'll focus it on one thing so that you're not, totally overwhelmed, but you can go down and see, of course, other things that are available as long as you are doing some work on your house. And then we can direct you straight to the utility page. And our calculator is also embeddable so that, you can, if you're a contractor or a state, you can put it on your page with your branding. So it's, not directing people to us. We are providing it open source so that more people can have a great experience with their home electrification. So with that, I'm very excited to introduce Efficiency Maine. So Efficiency Maine is the quasi-state agency that has been running Maine's energy efficiency program since 2002. Their programs cover all fuels in all sectors, so industrial, commercial, multifamily, residential, low income, and vehicles. And they have rebated more than 100,000 heat pumps in a state with 600,000 homes. So that's the top in the country per capita. They also, nearly 1 out of every 13 heat pump water heaters in the country is sold in Maine, the top per capita in the country. So 20,000 homeowners have participated in Efficiency Maine's weatherization program, saving them more than $200 million over the life of the upgrades. So we're excited to hear about how they do what they do, and we hope that this will give states and implementers and advocates just some great fodder for what is possible with all of the money coming from the IRA rebate programs. So I'm happy to introduce Bridget Gifford, who is a senior program manager responsible for the moderate and low income residential programs in Maine, and Andy Meyer, who is a senior program manager responsible for any income residential programs. They have a presentation. They've also said they're happy to be interrupted, but we will also have time at the end for more Q&A. So Andy and Bridget.
Great.
Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen and Joel and Camilla. I'm going to share my screen. Is that not working right? I'm going to share
Close.
Correctly, share the right screen.
There you go.
And hopefully you can see that.
Yep.
Great. Bridget and I want to say thanks to Rewiring America for all the work they've done leading up to the IRA, work since, and doing a great job of sharing good ideas. Bridget and I are going to share some of the lessons that we've learned, hoping that they'll be relevant to other state energy offices who are just starting out. Bridget and I represent 2/3 of the residential team at Efficiency Maine, and we have about $50 to $100 million budget, $50 million of residential. We don't have a lot of spare people, so it's been great to have Rewiring America interview us and do a great job creating these slides, better than we could have. So we're going to go through and share some of the secrets that we've learned over the years, last couple of decades of running efficiency programs. I'm going to go over our background. I'm going to break things up into heat pump program, our heat pump water heater program, some low income program ideas, and then have Q&A at the end. First, I'll start off just with who is Efficiency Maine. We are a quasi-governmental state agency. And as Kristen mentioned, we run all the energy efficiency programs in Maine for all fuels, natural gas, delivered fuels like oil and kerosene, wood, electricity. And we're funded a variety of ways, soon to be the Inflation Reduction Act funds, but we have got a lot of advocates, a lot of smart policy people have figured out ways to get us funding from multiple sources. And so we're able, that's what enables us to run such a broad array of programs. We basically do four things that help drive energy efficiency, and they are rebates, financing, a lot of technical information for customers to decide what to do. And probably one of our best resources is we've got a network of 700 independent installers who have partnered with us to drive verifiable, cost-effective energy efficiency and customer satisfaction. So that's who we are and what we do. Kristen mentioned some of the things that we're most proud of that I think are relevant to this group here. We have incentivized over 100,000 heat pumps, 20,000 fiscal year 21. We did 25,000 last year, and we only have about 600,000 homes. So that's about one rebated heat pump for every 6 homes in a state that most people thought heat pumps didn't work. And just so you know, they work fabulously well in the cold. We've also had a lot of success with heat pump water heaters. We don't have as many water heaters as the rest of the country per capita because most of our homes are heated with forced hot water boilers, which also, they heat the house, they also heat the water. But we rebate about 10,000 every year in a state that has 180,000 residential water heaters in total. A couple other stats just to share, give perspective to our results. About 60% of electric water heaters in Maine are heat pump water heaters, and the national average is 2%. So we do in whatever 3.5 years what other states would get done in a century. So it's been a really big. We've learned a lot. We've made a lot of mistakes. We've had a lot of help, but we've got some programs that are working really well. And back in 2020, 1 out of every 10 heat pump water heaters in the country came to Maine. We have a population of 1.4 million people. So a small fraction of 1% of the population, yet roughly 10% of the heat pump water heaters. So that's kind of who we are and what we've done. We're going to talk, Bridget and I will talk about our 2 programs, heat pumps and heat pump water heaters, through the lens that we look at of what we call the 5 levers or throttles or accelerators. And the 5 are, which you'll see as the framework, motivating incentives. If they're too big, you're wasting money. If they're too small, you're actually wasting more. If it's small incentives, just go to people who would have bought things anyway, and it's an entire waste of money. 2, easy. Bridget is the queen of making things easy. When you eliminate friction in a program, it's an amazing lift. So we're going to talk about what we do to make things easy. Marketing is really the core of what we do. We're trying to inspire people to take action. That's marketing. Support is the 4th lever, and it's one that we have a growing appreciation for, even though we've been doing this 21 years. We just keep learning how important supporting is, and supporting everyone in the value chain, manufacturers, installers, retailers, customers, supporting everyone is important. And then the core one we're going to put last, which is continuously improving. It's really the most important. It's what Bridget and I spend all our time doing, is looking for ways to get better and reaching consensus with our teams so that we can make better programs. And I didn't describe it in our who we are, but all of our programs are outsourced to program implementing companies. And that's how we're successful. That's how Bridget and I can handle $50 million worth of investments each year. So we observe, we look for ways to improve. We sit down frequently with our program teams and share what we observed. come to agreement as to what would be, if there are any action items associated with it, and make improvements. So those are the 5 levers. And we'll go through the 3 programs. First of all, the heat pump program. We only rebate ductless mini split heat pumps. We have a couple tiers of rebates based on the efficiency of the heat pumps. It's residential. We also have a commercial industrial program, but Bridget and I manage the residential one. It's a real generic program. It's a downstream mail-in rebate program, and it's statewide. It's nothing special. The implementation has been very successful, but the fundamental design is traditional mail-in rebate. And I mentioned we've got a network of 700 independent installers. I'll share with you that we recruited 20 of them about 12 years ago, and we stopped recruiting. And we've got 680 since then. They're flowing in. We've created demand, and the installers are coming into the field rapidly. We started out in our FYS fiscal year 2014. We started out with 2,500 heat pumps. Thanks to COVID, we saw a jump in 2021 up to 20,000 from 10,000. We doubled in 1 year with no workforce development efforts, and we did 25,000 last year. So it's worked out well. We have a lot of happy customers. Speaking of happy customers, we have a team that does inspections every day. They're out right now while we're talking. They're out inspecting homes, and Bridget and I and the whole management team for the programs sit down every week, Fridays as a matter of fact, and we look through the customer satisfaction surveys that come. We look at the inspection comments from what the inspectors found, and one of the things they do is ask customer satisfaction questions, 2 questions. And Bridget and I and the whole team get together, and we all go through every single one. And it's kind of a religion for us. We're very, very focused on customer satisfaction. You see in this graph here, 90% of customers rated their overall experience with their heat pump a 9 or 10 on a scale of 0 to 10. That's pretty good. 50 to 80% net promoter score is world-class, and we're averaging around. It's not just Efficiency Maine, but all the installers and suppliers, all of us together are 90% net promoter score. So that's working well. Okay, let's go through the 5 levers. First is motivating incentives. Not too big, but definitely not too small. Ours are pretty small. Our rebates are $2,400 for income eligible customers, or $1,200 for everybody else. That's not a lot of money. But we have the other 4 levers have enabled us to have great success without a lot of brute force on the incentive. You know, see, it's a little bit different on the water heater, but on the heat pumps, they're pretty modest. A heat pump costs about $4,000 or $5,000, and the rebates are $200 to $800, so a very small percentage of the total price. And we push a lot the Inflation Reduction Act tax credits. So we wouldn't say $2,400, we'd say $5,000 when we're talking to customers, and then we give them the breakdown. But those are the incentives we have for heat pumps. Second lever is keeping it easy. Our heat pumps, we've been running this program long before IRA came out. Ours was based just on the efficiency rating, just one number called HSPF. And we wouldn't recommend that now that we have the CEE list associated with the IRA 25C tax credit. That's the direction we're going to head. We want to keep it easy, so that way we can say it's rebate eligible, it's tax credit eligible, and don't make installers be tracking multiple lists. So what we're doing currently is historical. Our direction will be to get in line with IRA and make life easy for everybody. The eligibility for rebates for installation is pretty simple. We've got a 1-page installation requirements checklist that the installers need to follow. 1 page. This is based on our inspections of 3,000 inspections per year for the last several years. We boiled it down. We know what the key points are. That's what we ask the installers to do. And that's what we use for our inspection checklist. And they know that we'll be inspecting roughly 15% of installs. Number 3 is to become an installer. Pretty simple. It's free. You can do it online 24 hours a day. And we'll get you signed up on our website the following day if we get all the documentation. We ask that people have insurance. For heat pumps, they have to have US EPA Section 608 refrigerant handling certificate. They have to be trained by a manufacturer. And we have a 1-hour video on our website. It's very straightforward, it's free, and they need to confirm for us that they have looked at that. No money, very simple form, and they're flocking in. And I was at a session recently with an electrician who was thinking of becoming a heat pump installer, and he said, this is just too good to be true when he heard what we do. So we create demand and try and keep things easy. As far as who is eligible in Maine to get a rebate for a heat pump, everybody is. You don't have to be a resident. It's pretty simple. If you get low income rebates, you have to determine, document that you're eligible. Well, it's pretty simple. We've got online verification for the income eligible people, and Bridget's going to talk about that. And for the building eligibility, try and keep that pretty simple as well. It's single family, duplex, or condominiums, 2 indoor units per apartment, and there's no weatherization pre-requirement for heat pumps. I'm going to say that in case anyone missed it. There's no weatherization prerequisite for heat pumps. We feel very strongly about that. That's been a barrier that we've eliminated. We offer very generous rebates for weatherization. We love it when people weatherize, but we don't block, obstruct, and prevent heat pumps or weatherization or anything else. So that's how we try and keep things easy. Marketing, we spend a lot of time marketing. That's what we do. Even the rebates, in my mind, are a marketing tool. We focus, well, we'll talk about how we get feedback from customers. We spend a lot of time listening to customers. And what they want, for the most part, is not heat pumps. They don't want inverters. They don't want 410A. They don't want compression cycle, evaporators, condensers, outdoor units. They don't want any of it. They just want to save money. They want to be comfortable. More and more in Maine in the summer, we're getting hot summers and we're needing air conditioning for the first time. That's be different than other states. They want dehumidification, and they'd like to be able to sell a house that has all these features. So that's what we focus on. We don't talk about technology and scary things, and we don't try to impress people with technology. We just focus on their benefits, and we do it a lot of ways. I won't go through everything on here, but we spend over $1 million a year marketing heat pumps and heat pump water heaters, and we use channels in a hierarchy. The most cost-effective ones we do first, and if we have more money, we engage the others. But we've got a great website, efficiencymaine.com. We use direct mail, email, earned media. If you Google us, we're in the mail. We're in the news pretty much every week. That's free. Bridget and I and our teams are involved in 100 events.
Hey, Tim.
We saw your freaking.
Someone's talking to Tim.
How bad we're going.
I don't want to interrupt.
I'm sorry I created a conflict here.
Great, right?
Yeah, it's my neighbors. They're clearing out the house.
Camilla will track them down.
There you go.
Someone's having an okay boomer moment. There we go. Okay. We partner with utilities for utility bill stuffers. Governor's Energy Office promotes our incentives with Google ad campaign. I signed an invoice last week for $66,000 of Google ads last month for water heaters. We're going to get into that, but you can't buy a water heater in Maine without hearing from us. We do webinars. Did one last week. We'll do another one next week. Or we'll do one on Monday. So we use a lot of different channels. And collaborative marketing, we don't do it all ourselves. We've got a lot of allies who help us. The installers themselves spend lots of money. I talked to a heat pump installer a couple of weeks ago. He spends $500,000 a year on marketing. And that's one of our secrets to success is we've recruited entrepreneurs who are business people first and heat pump installers second. And they don't wait for the phone to ring. They go after it and they make the phone ring. That's been the key to our success. Nonprofits have been fabulous allies of ours. Utilities, I already mentioned, include in their bill stuffers mentioning our programs. Municipalities, we present regularly for town sustainability committees. homeowner associations. I mentioned the Governor's Energy Office. It's a giant team collaborating together and all reinforcing the same message. And we have some great tools on our website. We've got a lead generator, kind of like what Kristen was just showing of find your rebate. If you want to find an installer, we've got a page gets over 40,000 visits a year of people trying to find an installer for their home. And remember, the installers are the ones who are actually doing the work, and oftentimes they're doing the marketing. I'm going to keep going here. Support. I'm going to be honest with you guys. We do a lot of things right. We've also made a lot of mistakes, and I'm going to share that with you so you can avoid our mistakes and go to where the money is, as Willie Sutton used to say. What's high impact? To be very frank, rebates are high impact. Leads for installers, that's what attracts them. If we give them leads, they'll leverage our program to drive their businesses. Trade ally support team, that's people that on our team that we've hired who proactively go out and support trade allies. They call them every month. We've got a schedule. We know who the top installers are, and we call them. We say, what can we do to help? Last month, you mentioned this. I got that resolved. Are you aware that we have marketing co-op dollars? I see you haven't taken advantage of that. Do you know that we talked last month about training scholarships? I see you haven't taken advantage of that. I just want to make sure you knew. Do you need any free brochures? We just, whatever it is, we proactively, we call them pro calls. We proactively call the top performers to support them. Another impact of what we do is just endorsement. We might be able to say the exact same thing that an installer does, but coming from us, we don't sell heat pumps. It has some, brings a lot of credibility.
I remember right.
Rahul's talking there.
And
rapid payments is another thing we do. Thank you, Camilla. Rapid payments, if we are late in paying a rebate, that impacts the cash flow of an installer, and they might be less apt to use our program, or may just create a barrier for them. So we pay as quickly as we can. We ask people to wait 6 weeks, and we track it every week, and it'll never be 6 weeks. Right now we have 4 days of rebate claims in our approval pipeline. We track that very carefully. Bridget pointed out, this is so important that I almost forgot to say it. We only have one phone number, and we only have one website. When I first started out, we had a phone number for each program. We had different URLs for different web programs. We had different looks and feels and logos. We had a whole lot of fun in the marketing department. It was a disaster for customers. So now there's just one phone number for everything. Everybody calls it one phone number and one website. And you'll hear me say over and over, efficiencymaine.com. That's what it is. We also do some stuff that's low impact. That's my nice way of saying it's a waste of time. If you guys are just starting out from scratch and you can't do everything all at once, well, put this on your B list or your D list. We offer financing. I'm very proud of that. 95% of our jobs don't use the financing. So I just want to be open about that. That's not a key driver. We offer free brochures. We've got an on-site, online ordering system. We've got a library fulfillment house. We're very proud of our brochures. They don't make much of a difference to installers. They don't use brochures. They're not that kind of guy. They carry clipboards. We use them for trade shows, but our installers don't find them very helpful. I mentioned that we have co-op marketing funds. That's a very warm, fuzzy feeling. They like the sound of it, but they don't actually take advantage of it. Some of them spend a lot of money on marketing, some don't. We're always trying to lure them to do more marketing of their company and heat pumps. That's not been a big impact. I mentioned the training scholarships we have. Marketing, co-op marketing is 50% of their expense, up to $5,000 reimbursement per year. We'll give a scholarship to any professional training for employees, 50% up to $500 per employee. It's rarely used. And newsletters. Bridget and I spend a lot of time on newsletters, and I don't think they get opened very often. They're not that kind of guy. They work out of a truck. They're not sitting at a terminal reading newsletters. So I'm being honest there. Some of the things we do high impact, some are lower impact. We do them all because we'd hate to slow things down, and we can do that. And then the last thing on heat pumps is continuously improving. This is the foundation. It's more important in our experience to have a process to continuously improve than it is to have a good start. You can have a good start, a good design with no improvement, You can have a perfect program. You can launch a perfect program. And if you can't continuously improve, then over time, it will not continue to be perfect. The industry will change and the program design will not. On the other hand, you can start off with a rotten program, but if you listen carefully and take action and improve, you can have it become, I don't know about a perfect program, but a really, really good program. So Bridget and I, the core of what we do is to listen to customers. And I'm using customers in a broad sense, manufacturers, retailers, distributors, installers, and homeowners, anybody in the value chain is our customer. And we spend our time listening to them. And then we come back to our team and try and build some consensus. We share what we've observed. We discuss, is there anything actionable there that we could get better? And then we make improvements. So we do things like, number one says, trade ally ride-alongs. I did mine on Tuesday. We close our mouths, open our eyes, open our ears, and we spend all day. We may start at 5 in the morning. We might finish at 7, and I got home at 7:30 last night. And we listen, and we just observe. And it's amazing the things you can learn by getting out of the office. It's incredible. Every week we listen to customer call recordings. Every other week we watch videos of our inspectors in homes who are listening to customers and listening to their reactions. I told you about reviewing 100% of customer satisfaction surveys. Hopefully I mentioned that's 3,000 times a year. Efficiencymaine.com, we review our website on a regular basis just to make sure that it's up to date. Bridget and I and others on our team attend and participate in installer technician trainings. We appear as guest lecturers. We do that largely to listen and see the reaction and hear the questions so that we can do better by installers. We attend manufacturer trainings. We do over 100 events a year, I mentioned. And we've got an unofficial technical advisory group of the best performing installers. We don't get together in a boardroom with them. We email them or call them, or we meet them where they are, whatever is the best way to communicate. We ask them, we're thinking of making this change. What do you think of that? Is this going to help or hurt? And it's been a very powerful tool for continuous improvement. Last slide on heat pumps, lessons and conclusions. One is heat pumps don't need backup in the cold. They work just fine in all temperatures in Maine. And I'm going to guess Maine's colder than where you live. We're up on the Canadian border if you don't know where Maine is. Number two is stocking incentives, where you pay money to a retailer or a distributor to stock efficient products. Doesn't do anything. Demand drives supply. Supply does not drive demand. So it does not make any difference. If you drive demand, they will not fail twice to fulfill an order. If something comes and asks for something, they don't have it, they'll get it after that. That won't happen again. These guys are very, very good. The retailers and distributors, it's what they do for a living. Financing has minimal impact on demand. I mentioned that. Homeowner technical education doesn't drive demand. I told you that. People are not interested to learn about the technology. One of our best salespeople in the state, his company sells 2,000 heat pumps a year. And I've watched him, I've observed him, I've followed him. And customers ask, how do heat pumps work? And he says, you want to know how they work? Like magic. And that's customer satisfied. That's actually all they wanted to know, and they buy. Technical information does not help drive demand. Workforce development is best done by distributors, not by programs. So we support distributors and trade schools, but we don't come up with our own training. We collaborate and we support one another, and we stay in our lane and support them. I mentioned weatherization should not be a heat pump prerequisite. That is a false choice. Some would tell you, and they're mathematically correct, that it's best to weatherize before you put in a heat pump. While that is theoretically correct, it's a false choice. You don't get a choice between doing heat pump first or weatherization first. You get to do what the customer wants. And typically they want either a heat pump or a bass fishing boat. And if you block them on getting the heat pump, you don't get weatherization. You get a trip to Disney World. That's what happens. So if someone calls us and says they want to do weatherization first, we embrace them. What a great idea. We've got super rebates and a whole network of independent installers. We've got financing. We've got plenty of information for you. How can we help you weatherize? They say the first thing we want to do is a water heater. What a great idea. We can help you with that too. It's really important that we meet people where they are, not bully them into what we think is the best order. upgrades. Number 7 is seek to serve customers, installers, not manage them. That's been a fundamental value for us, foundational for us.
Hey, Andy, I just want to interrupt you and let you know it's about 1:30.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. We'll wrap up heat pumps here. Number 8 is a really critical one. We leverage the market. So, and that's one of the most powerful forces we've got. So when people come to efficiencymaine.com to find an installer, we don't list them alphabetically. We list them in the order of the number of rebates that they've helped customers get in the last 4 months. So the cream rises to the top. And that way we know that it's mathematically, the algorithm sorts them up to the top. We know that they're most apt to get a call back from the top performers. Here's the reason they're the top performers. And the last thing is, not that we have a lot of control over it, but just so you know, successful installers, they need sales skills more than anything. And HVAC skills, of course, they need. But most of our top installers are not formerly HVAC companies. They're formerly companies that sold. They sold satellite dishes. They sold appliances. They sold building construction. One of the top 20 is a former HVAC person. And he was the first to open a retail store with a showroom selling heat pumps, not just waiting for the phone to ring. Okay, that really is the last heat pump slide. Heat pump water heater program design is very, very simple. Any Energy Star heat pump water heater, any channel, retailer, distributor, online, doesn't matter. We use a model that we call the Vermont model because Efficiency Vermont pioneered it. And we offer a choice of instant discount, which is the way to go. Or if you can't, for any reason, participate in instant discount, you could do a regular old mail-in rebate in our programs statewide. Motivating incentives, going to use the same 5 levers. Target price, we try and match price with a 40-gallon 6-year electric water heater. That's the competition. That's the model that used to have 80% market share in Maine. And while it's nice to have federal tax credits, it's not a motivator if you've got a leaky water heater in the basement. Retail, we match price, and these are the discounts. This is the money that we give to retailers or distributors if they sell at a discount. And low income program, we actually offer water heater free, parts and labor. We pay plumbers $3,000 to put in a heat pump water heater, and we give them the lead, and they get it done for us. Keeping it easy, if it's Energy Star, it's in. That's the end of the rules. It's got to be in Maine. Marketed, we have published the message. This is the message that works. I told you we're spending close to a better part of $1 million marketing. When we do with Google, we give them a bunch of words that we think will work, and they have their computers test them, and they tell us what works, what gets the clicks. So this is the answer. That should be worth the price of admission right there. This is the message that drives heat pump sales. And we also do something interesting. On Google search, we don't just say if they're searching for heat pump water heater, take them to Efficiency Maine. If they're searching for heat pump water heater, they'll come to Efficiency Maine through organic search. We have a lot of hits. We do things like if someone says, I want a propane water heater, if they want any type of water heater, they'll hear from us. If they search for Renai on-demand water heater, they'll hear about heat pump water heaters. And so the comment here is, you can't buy an electric water heater in Maine without hearing about heat pump water heaters. You might not buy one, but you'll know about it. You make an informed decision. Same type of low impact. I'm going to skip over them, but it's the same type of thing. Heat pump water heaters, same type of support. We've got a field team who's in every water heater retailer and every plumbing distributor every week. They know them. They know the names of the people. They know their spouses. They know their kids. They know what makes them tick, and they do a fabulous job. That's very, very important. We have another team that supports the headquarters locations. They don't always talk to one another. And we form our team, field team, and office team are often the link between headquarters of the retailer, stores of the retailer, branches of the distributors, and their manufacturers. We help them communicate and form a network, facilitate communications, and same type of low impact steps. Continuously improving, same thing. We listen and observe like crazy. We come back to our team, share what we've learned, ask if there's any action items we can take. We get a consensus on action, and then we take action. Conclusions on heat pump water heaters is discounts are a lot better than mail-in rebates. If you don't have $850, you can't spend $850 and wait for the government to send you a check. It's just not possible. So if you can get an instant discount, that's what will drive the sale. I told you our strategy, which is working very well, is we match price in retail. So it's the same price, but it's a bigger water heater with a better warranty. No one cares about efficiency. Or with distributors, we actually beat the price of electric water heaters by $100 because heat pump water heaters don't save any money for plumbers. For plumbers, who are the ones making the decision, they weigh more and they have to have the condensate dealt with. And they got a heat pump on top that most plumbers don't know how to fix. So they actually don't like heat pump water heaters. They dislike them. Heat pump water heaters are a problem for most plumbers. So by making them $100 cheaper, we're trying to nudge them in the direction, and it works very well. We've got nearly 80% market share in distributors. Number 3, focus on in-store, in-branch promotion. So we try and, rather than do general advertising, we wait until someone expresses an interest. Either they've done a Google search or they've gone to the store water heater aisle, or the plumber's gone to a distributor to buy a water heater. And that's where we wait for them. And if they get there, they'll hear about heat pump water heaters. Same type of humble servant attitude, number 4. And number 5, again, we leverage the market. If you want to buy a water heater in Maine, you can go to efficiencymaine.com. We'll show you where the lowest price is in the state. People like that. And that's the end of heat pump water heaters. And I'll turn things over to Bridget.
All right, thanks so much, Andy. I'm just managing the chat a little bit. So my focus on staff is really our low and moderate income initiatives. And so this is just a screenshot from the efficiencymaine.com website. We've got a whole host of things depending on what is your entry and your eligibility that would afford you a different rebate level. So really, Andy and I have worked hard to align all residential programs so that they are consistent, and it's really just dependent on what is your household income and what your rebate would be. So there's a lot of alignment with all of our measures. We have leaned heavily on this categorical eligibility. So if a Mainer is getting heating assistance or Maine Care is the Medicaid health insurance in Maine. So if someone is on one of these benefit assistance lists, then Efficiency Maine would see them also as low income. So someone else has done that hard work of going through the W-2s and the household size and all of that, and has assured that they indeed are low income. And so we accept that categorical eligibility, which I believe is within the guidelines of the Inflation Reduction Act rebates as well. So we hope folks, we try to drive a lot of traffic to this website. They're able to access this 7 days a week. And we want people to come here and sort of pre-screen, get themselves in the database, and we set an expectation of a week. So they'll come, they'll fill out this online tool, whether they're low income and participating in one of these lists, or they're moderate income. They're still eligible for an enhanced rebate if they're moderate income, and we're leaning on adjusted gross income in that regard. So we want folks to come here, sort of pre-screen their eligibility, give us a week or so to verify that eligibility. Some of these lists we have in-house and some we don't. So we're collaborating with other agencies throughout the state to just make sure that we're getting that verification. So we set the expectation as about 5 working days, and then that homeowner or that household would receive a verification letter that indeed they are eligible for all of our low income offerings or all of our moderate income offerings. And in that letter, we outline what those are. And that is going to assure them that they're eligible for up to a year's time. So they can present that letter to a contractor, to a dealership if they're interested in an electric vehicle. And so that's sort of the tool that we use to screen verification and really just market to the state at large this tool so people can come here on their own. And in the past, we were just, we only had that heating assistance list available to us. So we would just be direct marketing to those folks. But now we can really open things up and use our marketing and try to direct, the entire state to this page. And so I just wanted to share that tool. Andy, I'm going to go to the next page. This is just one example of a program that we have only for low-income folks. I mentioned earlier that Andy and I do a lot of work to align our offerings and our rebates and our measures. This is a little outside of that model, so I wanted to walk through this with you all. So our direct install heat pump water heater program, as mentioned on a previous slide, this is completely free to the low-income household. And so we have about 25-ish installers who are participating, but these are the steps. We sort of identify the low-income eligible participants. So the previous slide where it was those lists, that's our low-income pool. We've recruited installers throughout the state of Maine who will participate. They have agreed to our pricing. And then we're trying to just marry those two up. If we've got an interested customer, who is your closest participating installer, and we're going to marry those up to do that scheduling themselves. And that installer is holding all of those costs. It's really important, number 4 here, that Efficiency Maine pay out that rebate as quickly as possible. That installer is holding those costs. And so we do a lot of work to be sure that that check gets in their hands quickly. And then number 5 is the inspection. So it's really important to have as much labor costs on the table for these installers to make it worth their while to continue to participate in this program. So for the inspections, we ask them to take 4 different pictures of the install, some critical pieces, the condensate line, the unit itself, and some other parameters. So those photos are attached to the claim form, and then that's just a $50 adder to the plumber or to the installer. We like to keep the installer's queue full of prospects. So, this is not their primary job. Their primary job is they've got their clients in their plumbing business. And so this is just really secondary to them typically. And so what we found in the past is if we give them 5 or 6 or so prospects, they're going to save it for a rainy day when they don't have their customers calling them. If we keep that queue full, 20 prospects, then they're going to be busy. They're going to address those installs, and they're going to do more with Efficiency Maine. So we try to keep those queues packed with prospects. And manage timelines. So this is not a program for people with no hot water. This is people who are interested in saving on their electricity and having a new heat pump water heater installed in their home. But we certainly don't want to invite people into the program who are in crisis. Again, we have about 25 installers statewide. So it is a number of weeks before that scheduling happens typically. And so we just try to set expectations with our customers right up front. And that scheduling piece is between the customer and the installer. So Efficiency Maine tries to take a big step back after those two have been paired up. And I have one more slide. Andy, is that right? If you could advance for me.
Yes.
Okay, these are just our overall conclusions to the entire presentation. And really, number 1, emphasize the customer benefits, not the technology. Andy spoke a little bit about that. Rather than, getting into the weeds and nerding out, there are certainly some who appreciate that. But overall, the vast majority of customers just want to save money and they want to be comfortable. And so that's our marketing pitch. Number 2, inspire action. So, there are no prerequisites involved with any of these measures. People can take advantage of one or all, and we support any which way that happens. Number 3, seek and follow top performer feedback. So on our locator on our website, we've got, as Andy mentioned, about 700 different installers. If you're seeking a heat pump installer, our tool will populate with those installers who've done the most rebates for efficiency Maine. They'll populate at the top. So we're trying to seek and follow top performer feedback when there are continuous improvement questions that the team gets together and tries to tackle. We typically reach out to those the technical advisory groups as well that are our top performing installers. Demand follows supply. Supply doesn't follow demand. So really what Andy and I do every day is just try to drive demand. If the phones are ringing off the hook, the market sort of takes care of itself, is what we've learned. So our job is to really drive demand. Number 5, follow program mission and guideline principles. Those are all very clearly documented, and as our team grows and we've got other staff coming on, everything is very clear, and we remind each other daily what our program missions are and our guiding principles. All the staff can recite those. And number 6, document those processes and follow the documentation, so that things can be replicated. And those are our overall conclusions. I don't know, Andy, if you had anything you'd wanted to add to that, but I think this is our final slide before we can take some questions.
That's it. Perfect. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? If you do, I can't see the chat while I'm in share mode. So,
And I've collected some questions from the chat, but let's open it up if anybody wants to come off mute and ask anything to Andy and Bridget.
Hi, this is Dustin from New Jersey Board of Public Utilities. You said before that your heat pump program doesn't require weatherization. Have there ever been like instances or like concerns of installing heat pumps in homes with poorly sealed envelopes, which could diminish the performance of the heat pump or make it use more energy than it needs to? And if there are, then what are the remedies for that? Or do you just recommend weatherization in those cases?
a leaky house is the very first house you should go to with a heat pump or insulation. Again, it depends what the customer's doing. In Maine, it's a voluntary program. So if a house is leaky, you can save more energy with a heat pump than a house that is super insulated. So it's not a mistake to put a heat pump in a leaky house. Does that answer your question, Dustin? It seems like it was a multi-part question.
Yeah, I think it does. Thank you.
Let me talk to the prerequisite of weatherization, because if there are a number of folks who talk about that. One, as I already mentioned, it's a false choice. You don't get to do weatherization or heat pump first. That's not our call. You get to do what the customer wants, or you don't get to play at all. So that's very, very important. Also, any type of friction, we talked about easy, making the programs easy. Any type of friction just creates loss in participation, and we lose the chance for energy efficiency. The point of view that weatherizing before upgrading a heating system was very true. I used to be BPI certified. I drank the Kool-Aid. I know the building science. In the past, there were non-variable speed heating systems. When they come on, they come on. When they satisfy demand, they shut off. And cycling is terribly inefficient. And putting an oversized heating system that can't modulate into a home and then putting it correctly sized for leaky and then making it tight later means that the heating system would end up being oversized when the house got weatherized. Heat pumps are variable speed. So if you have a leaky house that needs 50,000 BTUs per hour and you put in 50,000 BTU per hour heat pump and then you weatherize it and it only needs 40,000 BTUs per hour, the heat pump just makes 40,000 BTUs per hour. It actually corrects its sizing. You can't do that with an oil boiler, or most gas boilers are not variable speed. So that has changed, that math. Also, weatherization is terribly complex. You don't just put insulation. It's fraught with peril. There's things like asbestos, lead paint. I got a list here. Asbestos, mold, moisture, carbon monoxide, VOCs, radon, Water is a giant issue. Moisture is a big issue. Allergens, fire, all kinds of things can be uncovered by weatherization, and you need to do that right. You can't just seal and insulate. You have to address those other issues first. Heat pumps don't suffer from those issues. They don't exacerbate those issues. So forcing weatherization as a prereq to heat pumps can bring on a lot of complexity that's not necessary. Another part of that point of view is the thought that if you could put in a smaller heat pump, you'd save money. And that's true, but not significantly. Cutting the size, the capacity of a heat pump in half might save $200, $300, $400, $500. And you can't cut the house energy usage by putting $200, $300, $400, $500 into the envelope. It just won't happen. So it's far more cost effective to put in what the customer wants than it is to battle them. And then the other last point is the law of diminishing returns. If you have two identical houses and you can put in one heat pump and one weatherization, you're much better off putting a heat pump in one house and weatherization in the other house than you are doing them both to the same house. Because once you do the first measure, either heat pump or weatherization, you've cut the amount of waste. There's not as much to save with the other measure. So the idea of consolidating measures onto one house rather than spreading them out is actually mathematically backwards. The house that is not insulated and uses lots of energy to heat, that's the one that the heat pump will be most effective on. It's also the one that insulation will be most effective on. But the concept of putting them together flies in the face of law of diminishing returns. So hopefully that helps, Dustin. I'm glad you asked, because there are a lot of people who were trained like I was long ago before the advent of the current day heat pumps, who will tell you differently. But that's been our experience. That's what we've learned. I hope that helps.
Thanks. And Jennifer has her hand up.
Thank you. Could you discuss emergency water heater replacements and how you deal with the potential for a longer installation time for heat pump water heaters over just a gas replacement?
Oh, for gas.
Or another technology that's not electric.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Jennifer. We target in Maine, we don't have a lot of natural gas water heating. We target electric replacement, and that's a plug and play, simple one. I can't speak to a heat pump water heater is not an ideal candidate for it will work, but it's not an ideal candidate for emergency replacement of natural gas. That's significant plumbing change. It's not just cutting pipes and sweating in a new one. So I think it's a good question.
One of the things, just so everyone can hear on the call, one of the things that we're considering is something that Barnett Plumbing in the Bay Area has adopted, which is a emergency gas water heater loaner program, so that while the plumber is installing a new, more efficient electric heat pump water heater, they can just plunk in a gas water heater so that the customer has hot water while the install is being done, and they've been very successful there. So that's one opportunity.
Yeah, one of the catches of going from natural gas or gas to heat pump water heater is most of them require 220 volt wire, and that requires not a plumber but an electrician. And you think it's tough to get a plumber, it's pretty tough to get an electrician too. So that sounds like a novel approach, Jennifer. I like that.
Yeah. Not mine, but thank you. We want to adopt it.
Good. We want to share good ideas. Are there other questions?
There's another question from the chat from Russell at RMI. He says, can you say more about why Efficiency Maine only incentivizes mini splits and not ducted for furnace replacements?
I was getting to that in the chat, but go ahead, Andy.
Do you want to take that, Bridget?
We're pivoting. Our heat pump program was really designed as a room heater program to displace the most fossil fuel possible. So we are now pivoting to whole home solutions where ducted units will be pretty important in that scenario.
And then he also asked, why do you offer upstream incentives for heat pump water heaters, but only downstream for the heat pumps?
That's a great question.
That's
and
you,
very
Andy.
important. I'll take that. So the people buy water heaters. People don't want water heaters. They just want, as Amory Lovins would say, hot showers and cold beer. So we focus on the replace on burnout, we call it, water heater market. And it's just price. So going with an upstream discount when someone comes into the store or they call a plumber, they're not in a good mood. They don't have any money. They have a leak in the basement. They are stressed. And they just want the cheapest price. And they don't want to pay extra and wait 6 weeks for some government check to come. So price is really important and instant discount is important. So that's why we go upstream with heat pump water heaters, and it's wildly successful. Heat pumps, people actually want them. They buy them by choice. They don't need one. They want one. So it's not, they don't know what a heat pump costs. So if the price went from 5,000 to 4,000, they wouldn't know. There wouldn't be a reason to buy a heat pump. They didn't buy it because it's on sale. They bought it because they wanted it. So it's far more economical for us to talk about how much of a rebate they're going to get. And it prompts them to call an installer to try and get the rebate. So we don't have to buy down the heat pump to zero. In that case, it's a discretionary expense. So the two decisions, that's a really insightful question. The two decisions are unrelated. The replace on burnout versus we call it a retrofit or a discretionary purchase are fundamentally different. So we incent them fundamentally differently. Hopefully that helps everybody.
And Russell and others, we do talk about that issue a little bit more in the memo that we wrote summarizing Efficiency Maine's tips that we will be also sending out after the call. Are there any other questions? And I think I missed one from the chat. What is Maine thinking about using its energy efficiency RLF funding allocation from IIJ, given your experience with finance?
Could you read the first two words of that? I missed it. What are we thinking?
Yeah. Given your experience with financing, what are you thinking about using your energy efficiency RLF funding from IIJA?
Revolving loan fund. We have a $20 million revolving loan fund, and although it's only made a small impact, we've got all $20 million lent out. It's already a revolving loan fund, and any funding that we could get to make that available to grow that would allow us to make the loans available for people of any income, which is what we used to have. We scaled back as we lent out all the money, so it would enable us to go back to offering it to everyone. So hopefully that helps. That we have had success with a $20 million revolving loan fund. We were one of actually it was federally funded back 14 years ago with the ERA funds. It's been very successful.
Well, thank you everyone for attending. Thanks to Andy and Bridget for your great work and your presentation. Everyone, we will be sending out the recording, the slides, and a memo summarizing Efficiency Maine. And if you have more questions, please get in touch with us or with Bridget and Andy. And if you're interested in our state-specific calculator, please get in touch with us too. Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. Thanks for Rewiring America. Good luck.
Thank you.